Welcome to Lore Lodge by Juti. Mysteries, enigmatic answers, beyond miracles. This is already episode 5. For this episode, we will take you to listen to the story of Seua tiger shapeshifter, a legend that still lives. In today's world, where science and technology have advanced far, there are still beliefs in certain legends deeply rooted in Thai culture. One of these is the story of Seua, tiger human, a legendary creature said to be able to transform between human and tiger forms. This tale will take you to explore the origins of the Seua legend and the stories passed down through generations. Although the world has changed, the charm and wonder of this legend still remain in people's hearts, especially among hikers and those who love mysterious tales. Whether you believe it or not, this story of Seua will help us understand Thai cultural beliefs and the interesting influence of legends on society. If you're ready, please listen to the tale of Seua now. Seua tiger shapeshifter is a legend that has been spoken of for a long time. Thai people still adhere to the saying, "If you don't believe, don't disrespect," which keeps the legend of the Seua magical and charming for hikers, despite the fearsome nature of the supernatural being said to be a fierce tiger that likes to catch and eat humans. The legend of Seua has been told in many places and regions, but it can be summarized that the Seua originates from two beliefs. 1. Real tigers that, after eating many humans, become possessed by the spirits of those they've consumed. This makes the tiger supernatural, able to shapeshift and disguise itself as anyone to lure prey, making it easier to catch and eat people. The more humans it eats, the more spirits possess it, and the more powerful it becomes. 2. Those who study tiger magic, calling upon tiger spirits to possess them. It's believed that prolonged study of this bestial magic eventually transforms the practitioner into a Seua. Once they eat a human, they become a full Seua. Additionally, there's a story, though undocumented, that's still passed down as a bedtime tale about Seua. Villagers in the north were troubled by a tiger attacking people, causing great fear. They sought help from the Border Patrol Police, BPP, for protection. The BPP eventually became tiger hunters. One night, they succeeded when the tiger entered their temporary shelter in the village hall. The BPP, startled by the close encounter, shot at the tiger, but it only wounded it and disappeared into the darkness. The next morning, they followed the blood trail, which ended at a mound. Upon digging, they found a corpse, a man's upper body with a tiger's lower half, as if caught mid-transformation. The body was identified as a local villager. This story has been retold for over 40 years. Today, its mystique has been adapted into films and dramas, becoming a source of entertainment. This might be due to shrinking forests or increasing belief in science. Nevertheless, when entering real forests, the Seua remains a popular topic of inquiry with hunters and guides. Like the story of Kun, while ordinary, it represents a belief that hasn't faded, even as the world's technology has greatly advanced. If you're ready, please listen to the story from Kun now.
One day, I received a phone call from a friend inviting me to join a forest survey expedition along a gas pipeline route. A company had purchased gas from a neighboring country, but the pipeline had to pass through a highly fertile forest area. This led a conservation group in Kanchanaburi to submit a petition to the palace, requesting the office of the royal secretary to conduct a survey. Bob and I, along with a group of friends, were close and followed the palace delegation into the forest survey. As far as I can remember, it was the Huai Kang forest, which connected to the Chet Mitro mine, Ethong, near the Myanmar border. The Kanchanaburi Conservation Group contacted Karen guides familiar with that forest area. Roughly estimated, our group would have to hike through several mountain peaks for the forest survey. Besides the Karen guides, there were forestry officials involved in gas pipeline planning, and elephant research students. Mr. Alongkot was one of the guides because he was familiar with the area and the Karen language. That day, the journey was quite difficult. Our group parked the vehicles as close as possible to the forest trail we needed to hike. After that, the forest survey team, jokingly called the Miscellaneous Troop, started hiking up the mountain to survey the forest. Our most important weapons were cameras, both for still photos and video recording. Seua was the name of our small, agile, and strong Karen guide. We became close to Seua because we talked about various topics and went through hardships together during the trip, especially when crossing the swift-flowing Huai Kang stream. It was Seua who risked his life to cross the stream and tie a rope to a tree on the other side. This allowed us to hold onto the rope and wade across the stream. By the time we reached the other side, we were exhausted, with Seua anxiously watching us. When everyone had crossed the stream safely, this caring guide smiled with relief, as if this was a mission he had successfully completed. The forest we surveyed was big news at the time because of its rich biodiversity. The bamboo stems we usually see are large, typically called bamboo 8. But in this forest, the bamboo stems could be considered bamboo 10, or even bamboo 12. 2 bamboo tubes could hold enough water for 20 people. It sounds unbelievable, but it was true. Not to mention the numerous giant trees that several people couldn't even wrap their arms around, standing tall in the forest. Such lush forests are extremely rare to see, even in national parks. That night, we camped on a mountaintop halfway through our survey route. Unfortunately, around midnight, we encountered a light rain that gradually became heavier. It wasn't a downpour, but it was enough to keep many of us awake. Some tents were waterproof, allowing their occupants to sleep, but for us, our tent wasn't sufficiently water-resistant. We had to move and sit under large trees, some of which provided some shelter from the rain. The fire that the cairn had built slowly dimmed. The soft chatter of young men sitting in the rain, with only tree canopies for shelter, must have moved Seua to pity. He disappeared for a while before returning with natural umbrellas, which he distributed to those of us who couldn't sleep that night. Seua's natural umbrellas were made from elephant ear leaves that grow in the damp areas of the forest. Somehow, Seua managed to snap the stems in a way that turned them into perfectly sized umbrellas for each of us to hold. They were excellent at keeping the rain off, thanks to the large size of the leaves. I realized that Seua must have gone quite far from our campsite to find these leaves. I was deeply touched by his kindness and still vividly remember the hardships of that night, as well as the conversations we had. I used to be a Karen soldier, fighting against the Burmese, Seua told us when interviewed. Where did you get your weapons from? We bought them. Chinese weapons were good. You'd fire and boom, it would reach the Burmese side. Did you ever buy weapons from Thailand? Yes, but they weren't good. You'd fire, and it would explode nearby, Seua said, laughing. How long did you fight? For a long time. Many died. We never won. I want to help them fight, but now I live in a Karen village. I don't go to help them anymore. It's better to farm. We talked about the Karen army's battles for a while until Bob, my friend, appointed Seua as a colonel. So we started calling him Colonel Seua, which he accepted with a smile. A colonel is a war veteran. In Thailand, you'd receive a medal for bravery. Colonel Seua was humble, but possessed considerable knowledge about surviving in the forest. Colonel, aren't there any animals bothering us where we're sleeping? No, there are too many people. Animals won't come close. But we saw elephant tracks while walking, didn't we? Yes, I'm still afraid, but they probably won't come now. If they do, we'd feel it even from far away. What do we do if elephants come? Find a tree, sir. The bigger, the better. What about this tree? I patted a nearby tree that would take 2 to 3 people to encircle. This one's a bit risky. An elephant could shake it, the colonel said calmly, making several listeners look up at the massive tree in the darkness, realizing that even such a large tree could be shaken by an elephant's strength. If elephants come, we just climb trees, right? If it's urgent, yes. Climb a tree, the bigger the better. Living in the forest for so long, what animals have you encountered? Many, sir. In the past, I hunted barking deer and other deer for food. Although the rain continued to fall and the campfire slowly died out, the small flashes of light from cigarettes being drawn on by the young men in the circle showed that no one was falling asleep while using elephant ear leaves as umbrellas in the rain. Despite the old saying, in the forest, don't speak of tigers. In the water, don't ask about crocodiles. At that moment, we talked about everything. What about tigers? Have you ever encountered any? I asked, starting a new topic to keep us awake. We had climbed at least 3 mountains that day, and we were tired and exhausted. Unable to sleep due to the rain, talking seemed the easiest thing to do at that time. I've seen tracks, sir. If you encounter one, you just walk away. Don't approach it. What kind of tiger? Was it a leopard cat? Fishing cats are common. I've seen them on opposite sides of streams, Colonel Seua laughed, as he felt fishing cats weren't very dangerous. What about big tigers? Like Bengal tigers or leopards? The tracks I saw were probably from a Bengal tiger. They call it the striped one. Do you see Bengal tigers often? This kind of forest should still have them, Bob asked with a straight face, holding a cigarette in one hand and the elephant ear leaf umbrella in the other. I've never encountered one face to face. They're afraid of humans too. What kind of king of the jungle is afraid of humans? Someone objected. Animals, they keep to themselves, sir. We're the ones disturbing them. One of Colonel Seua's porters chimed in. But we don't hunt tigers. We only hunt for food, another porter affirmed. It's the city folks who hunt tigers until the forests are empty, using them as rugs to show off their status. Like that helicopter crash 30 years ago, right? The one with a celebrity on board? The helicopter was full of animal carcasses, all belonging to important people in the country. My friend recalled that news story, speaking with resignation about human greed. Being in the forest made us appreciate it more, even as we faced the unrelenting rain. What about tigers? Have you ever encountered one? I asked curiously. I don't know, replied the colonel. Oh, several people exclaimed, disappointed. I've only seen strange people, but I've never shot someone who turned into a tiger. If I had shot someone who turned into a tiger, then I could say I've truly seen a tiger. Do you believe tigers really exist? Someone changed the question. Mysterious legends seem to make for interesting conversation. Yes, they do exist. The elders have encountered them, Colonel Seua confirmed. What about you, Colonel? Have you ever seen one? I'm not sure if what I've seen was one. It's just stories passed down. Well, Colonel, try telling us about it. Colonel Seua recounted that he would enter the forest regularly, similar to patrolling the Myanmar border. In the past, his Karen forces were considered a buffer state, which he believed Thai soldiers secretly supported. But later, when this policy was abandoned, they were heavily suppressed by the Burmese. The colonel's patrols with his companion were like walks in the forest, but dangers lurked everywhere. Born and raised in the forest, he learned forest survival skills passed down through generations. He knew which plants were edible, which were medicinal, and how to avoid forest curses. The elders in my village used to tell me that there are real tigers and fake tigers that transform to deceive. In Thai, you call them Seua saming, right? In the past, some elders in the village died from tiger attacks. We found their bodies later. We don't know if they encountered real tigers or fake ones before dying, but the wounds were from tiger attacks. Do tigers eat humans? They probably eat some parts because the bodies of those who died still had enough remains to determine the cause of death. Has anyone survived? Encountered a tiger and lived? Yes, but for those who died, I don't know if they met tigers or not. I only know they died because of tigers. Colonel Seua continued to affirm what he knew, and nothing beyond that. An elder in the village said that one day, he made a platform in a tree because he couldn't get home in time and had to sleep there. It was safe. Late at night, someone called him, asking him to come down and help because they were lost in the forest. He told them to come up, but they refused and insisted he come down. He became suspicious because normally, forest travelers would climb up if allowed. He remembered what the elders had passed down. These transformed tigers can't climb trees. So he told them to climb up themselves. He followed the trail, sir. There was a blood trail. When animals are injured, we don't follow too far. It's dangerous. He just followed enough to see that it disappeared into the deep forest. So, this transformed tiger, is it a tiger transforming into a human or a human transforming into a tiger? Someone in the circle asked. I don't know, sir. They say it's people practicing magic who turn into tigers. They can transform into both men and women. And what about you, Colonel? What kind did you encounter? I encountered a man too, sir. I'm not sure if it was one. He asked to come up to my platform, just like the uncle who shot the tiger. But I didn't shoot. How did it happen? It was late, sir. Around this time. 2 a.m., Bob said, checking his watch with a lighter. Yes, around this time. The whole forest was silent, very quiet. I was sleeping on the platform with my friend. We heard a voice calling, Sir, sir. I nudged my friend not to answer. We just stayed quiet and listened. Did you peek down? Yes, we peeked. We saw a dim shadow. The moonlight wasn't very bright. It called for a long time. We just lay quietly, not sleeping, observing it from the platform. Was the platform high? Not too high. We chose a tree that was just high enough to be safe. Why didn't you make a campfire to sleep by? Don't you usually make a fire on the ground when you're in the forest? If we come as a group like this, we make a fire. But if it's just two of us, it's better to sleep on a platform. It's safer. If we make a fire and accidentally fall asleep on the ground, and the fire goes out, a tiger could easily carry us off to eat. Go on with the tiger story. Did it call for long? It called for a while, sir. I didn't answer. My friend didn't answer. We just stayed quiet. Weren't you afraid it might be a person genuinely needing help? I asked, thinking about how people naturally should help each other. Forest travelers understand, sir. When it's almost dark, we should already be on platforms. If someone is lost and finds another person's platform, they would make a fire nearby to ask for shelter. That way, if anything happens, the person on the platform can shoot to help. But calling for someone to come down is dangerous. This forest probably doesn't have those, right? No, sir. If there are any, they'd be in the deep forest. And coming in a big group like this, there won't be any. Even if there were, they wouldn't come. After that, we talked about various topics, but the story of the tiger remained in Kungorn's mind until this day.
Kungorn's story about tigers is not unlike the perceptions of many others before him. It seems that forest hunters and trail makers have become so accustomed to protecting themselves from tigers that they no longer find them frightening. After Kungorn's account of his experience with tigers, the author is reminded of a tiger story in the royal letters of King Chulalongkorn, Rama V, during his incognito journey to Shanthaburi in 1876. The king traveled on the royal ship Akarachawuradit along the eastern coast, accompanied by several members of the royal family. Upon reaching Shanthaburi, there is a passage that states, "The local people strongly believe in and fear tigers. They say that in Cambodia, there's a master who can make tiger oil. 3 of his disciples stole this oil and applied it to themselves, turning into tigers. They strayed into the Shanthaburi region. One became a fierce tiger, killing 2 people in Plyo, 1 in Pakchan, and 2 in Pasi Sen, totaling 5 victims. The master went searching for them and told villagers that his 3 disciples had stolen the tiger oil and applied it, turning into tigers. The parents of these disciples wanted their children back, so they came searching. He instructed that if anyone encountered these tigers, they should beat them with a carrying pole or cover their footprints with a coconut shell, which would turn them back into humans. However, this remedy only works if the tiger hasn't yet eaten anyone. If it has already harmed someone, even using these methods won't turn it back into a human." This royal account provides an interesting historical perspective on the tiger beliefs in Thai culture, showing how widespread and deeply rooted these beliefs were, even capturing the attention of the king during his travels. Although there is a royal letter from King Chulalongkorn about tigers, it doesn't mean that he believed they really existed. He further wrote, "It's like when we came to Satahip once before. We ran out of fresh water on the ship and had to order soldiers to go fetch water from a pond inland, about 3 sin 120 meters, from the shore. The villagers said there was a tiger roaming around here. A monk, who was a teacher, came following at night and sat under a sugar palm tree by that pond, waiting to transform his disciple back into a human. He was still there at that time. The soldiers were afraid and came back to tell us. We wanted to send someone to bring the teacher down to see his face, but it was already late at night. In the morning, we left Satahip. That venerable teacher by now, who knows if the tiger has eaten him or what?" It's clear that the king wanted to know the truth about whether the rumored tigers really existed. However, he didn't get to prove it, and it seems he was rather skeptical, based on reason and what he had learned. But what he recorded shows us that stories of tigers have been widely discussed for over 100 years, and it's a belief that has been passed down to the point where many people believe it's real. In Buddhism, it's not specified whether tigers are real or not. This is because Buddhism teaches us to consider matters based on the Kalama Sutta. The Kalama Sutta is a principle of belief that the Buddha set forth for Buddhists, instructing them not to blindly believe in anything without using wisdom to truly consider the advantages, disadvantages, or good and bad aspects before believing. Nowadays, this concept is about developing thinking skills, or what is called critical thinking, which is considered an essential learning process in science and is based on principles of cause and effect. Colonel Seua himself, while not speaking about things he doesn't know, is cautious about what has been passed down through generations. This is a form of mindfulness in living. If we consider it, it means not to believe immediately in what we perceive. However, not believing right away doesn't mean disbelieving and being careless. It simply means that before believing what we hear, we should consider it wisely and not be careless about what we perceive. Shapeshifter, the author's teacher, once told the author that some subjects and magical arts do exist, but they must be learned with caution. Some disciplines are like double-edged swords, such as the magical arts known as black magic, which can be used to help people or harm them. Regarding the art of tiger-human transformation, currently, those who study magic often prefer to summon tigers into amulets rather than into people. This is why we see many sacred amulets in various temples available for worship, according to one's faith and beliefs. Shapeshifter didn't tell the author whether to believe in amulets or not. He only said that amulets are reminders, and the mind is most important. Therefore, he advised all his disciples to take care of their minds. When one takes care of their mind, they will know what should and shouldn't be done, leading to the observance of precepts as a component of goodness. Additionally, there's another matter that the author didn't ask Shapeshifter about: the difference between the art of tiger-human transformation and Shapeshifter's lion art. Just by thinking about it, one realizes that everything depends on how we conduct ourselves. The phenomena that occur are natural, whether it's about tiger-human transformation or anything else. If we use contemplation to grasp it, as insight meditation alongside concentration meditation, we will discover for ourselves that everything is an illusion. Things arise, exist, and then cease, only to arise again in a cycle. Living life without carelessness is enough to escape all dangers. That's the end of the story for episode 5. If you don't want to miss mysterious stories like this, please follow us and show your support. We'll meet again in the next episode.